12:08, somewhere around there. 12:08, exactly. And we're going to get started. This is the Budget and Administrative Oversight Committee for Metro Arts Commission. We're going to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone. And the land acknowledgement, is that what's under Drive and Equitable? Is that where I'm going? Never mind. I was going to say I've never read it, but just the commission. All right, great. All right, and we are going to see. Is there any public comment today?
No public comments today, and there were none emailed as well.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, then we're going to get into approval of the minutes for the July 16, 2024 meeting. Can we get a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner. And second?
Second.
All right, been moved by Commissioner Jester, second by Commissioner Lefowitz, and all in favor? Aye, since I'm the only one outside of the first and the second. But anyway, all right. I tell you what, let's get right into the business. We're set to be here from now until about 2 o'clock, but we're going to deal with whatever we need to deal with today. And maybe I can give some people back part of their days. It'll depend on the questions and the issues and any concerns that may come up that we need to address. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Coleman. If you have an opening statement and would like to just kind of give us an overview.
Yes, I'd just like to share with the members of the conciliation agreement has been, well, we signed it yesterday and scanned it and sent it to, and all of the parties were supposed to sign by yesterday. It is official. I'm sorry, thank you. And I do have, we will make copies available to you. It includes not only the terms of the agreement, and it also includes a listing of all of the grantees, the muralists and the arts organizations, and then it is the transmittal letter. The expectation is on or about August 15th. Metro Legal will be issuing checks to those people who fit into this category. We are also contemplating whether or not, whether or not Metro Arts will have a letter or any instructions to go with that as well. So it's a really tight timeline. I think the other thing that we want to share with you is that there will be a working group comprised of a representative from Metro Legal, Metro Finance, MHRC, and Metro Arts, plus one community person representing the arts that will have a major responsibility for doing the work. And that work is maintaining the philosophy and mission of Thrive, but making sure whatever the re-envision program is comports with Metro policies and procedures regarding monies and the proper appropriation. The challenge was that we were giving money to individuals that is not in compliance with not only Metro rules and regulations, but state, as I understand it. So there will be a working group that will be defined beginning its work in September, and then we'll be reporting back every 60 days. January 5th is the deadline for us to have whatever revised grant guidelines, criteria, processes available. And then in summer, September 2025 is when we will be able to begin anew. So that means that basically no grants will be going out before the end of this year. That gives us ample time to review, revise, re-envision, and the working group will be really determinative of what happens with the future of Thrive. That's all I wanted to say about that particular thing. And I don't know if you have any questions. We will make this available to members of the commission and staff today. And I know we're all very excited about it. There's always questions, and the complainants would like to have a meeting on or before September 13th with us to convey their thoughts, experiences with our grants process that will be facilitated and convened by MHRC, and it is to be 60 minutes unless all parties agree to a longer period of time. So it's August 15th, checks go out. September 13th, we meet, and then, now that it's official, so August 5th really is the start date. I mean, yeah, assuming everybody is signed on the 6th, so I don't know if Tessa wanted to add anything to it, or if...
No, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. Obviously, Taylor Yarbrough is the commission's attorney regarding the settlement, so I won't answer any questions that are in her lane as your attorney for this matter.
And she was willing to come, but I said, since we're just going to be talking about the final version, and we've talked about it before, we thought we could handle it.
I have a question. When you were talking about 1/5 for the deadline for the revised guidelines and September, this is all about Thrive, right? Not operating grants?
No, this is all of Thrive as we know it is essentially being spun off from Metro Arts, and really, in terms of the law, any Metro entity. So the working group is supposed to retain the philosophy, the thinking, the commitment, the mission, and come up with a solution. And the solutions include perhaps finding a nonprofit organization who would be willing to undertake that, and or if that doesn't work, going before council with legislation that would change so that it could be in compliance. My personal thought is that's going to be rather difficult because there was at one time a state law that also prevented you from giving money to individuals, but that is in the agreement that is an option to pursue.
Just to be all about Thrive and not about operating grants, right?
The work with the working group, yes, that is correct. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. And then when you said the working group would have a representative from Metro Arts, is that a staff person or a commissioner?
More than likely, it would be a staff person.
Yeah.
But it will depend largely on who the other people. In the past, it's been the directors, but I don't know who it would be. I guess it's probably the usual people who've been involved in this for quite some time. And I would also think that we could have a backup in case somebody couldn't come. But as far as I understand now, it's staff. And there are 4 prescribed meeting dates that occur every 60 days. And ask me another question while I'm trying to find it. I didn't put a clip on it.
So there will be no Thrive Awards this year until everything's revisited until September 25 when we begin again.
I thought mine said September, and when I was talking to Tyler, she said summer, so I just need to look that up as well. Does anybody know offhand? Because I thought it was September. I was looking for the dates of the working group meetings. The working groups will meet every 60 days, and they will be scheduled for October 29th, 2024, January 6th, 2025, and February 25th, 2025. And that working group is supposed to be comprised or put together on or before August 30th.
And the meeting with the complainants is with the working group or is with the commission as a whole?
It's on or before September 13th, representatives of MHRC will convene and facilitate one additional meeting between representatives of Metro Arts who are not specified and representatives of the Title VI complainants for the purpose of complainants sharing their institutional knowledge concerning prior Metro Arts grant processes and procedures. There will be no more than 4 representatives of the Title VI complainants, and the agenda will be set in writing in advance of the meeting by the Title VI complainants. But we were very adamant that MHRC needed to convene it and not just, and it will last no longer than an hour unless otherwise agreed upon by those attending.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Jester? Okay. I have none either. And we're going to get a copy of it.
Yes.
Fine. So if you have other questions, we can visit those at a later date, probably at the commission meeting. Okay.
The next thing I wanted to report on,
Thank you for that, Dr. Coleman.
sure, was the Metro Arts internal audit. I have begun the plan. It is not complete, but it will be complete by the end of the week or early next week. So I just wanted you to know that. The other thing that was interesting about it is that there were several of the recommendations that were duplicates. So, it's a little, there's still a lot. I mean, they go from A1 to N1, and some of them have multiple letters. But we're working on that and trying to get completion dates that make sense. The internal auditors, Lauren and Mr. Walker, okay, hold on, informed us that there is flexibility with the completion dates, and historically, they work with the people, and if you have a date and you need more time, that's not a problem. So we're trying to get these things off the agenda as quickly as we can, but also a lot of them are just requiring, in some instances, the development of new processes and procedures, and in others, refining or updating those. Related to processes and procedures, one of the things that Commissioner Watts asked us to do was to find out what kinds of standing operating procedures already existed. And I found 2 with regard to procurement, one for Metro Arts procurement policies and procedures that was done in 2020. And then another one that Chris found, that is the procurement manual, a guide to Metro purchasing, which was updated in 2022. We have not done that for grants or any of the other items closed, but that is part of our work that is outlined in the minutes from the previous meetings and also from our meetings that we've held recently. Commissioner Watts' thought was if we see what standard operating procedures we have, we can know and plan our work effectively and efficiently. Okay. Those were the major things I wanted to highlight today. And excuse me, we are still in the process of getting our monthly financial statements in a format that you had requested, with the columns of budgeted amount, actually spent, variance, and percentage, and then for notes. We're not there at this moment. We do have some data, and I'll just stop there, and Chris can do that.
Okay. Any questions around any of the things that have been presented thus far? Okay. All right. What what we're going to do is continue on with kind of looking at closeout in the FY25. Are you doing both of those, Chris? Okay, thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Chris Defote. I have given I guess it's a packet of our financial overview for June, end of fiscal year, in addition to the first couple weeks into this new fiscal year, just showing what the budgets are, what has been spent, and the difference between what's available. So I didn't know if there was any questions in regards to that. The dates for the spreadsheets are, so this first spreadsheet is year end, fiscal year. Second page is the budget for FY25, and this third page is basically within a few weeks after the beginning of the fiscal year. So the last page is the most recent.
Is this the final for 24, or is it still subject to update?
Yeah, there's still
Yeah.
2 more updates. Yeah, we have a couple more pending items that need to be processed for 24.
That include more items on here than just the community arts leaders, or is that 2 updates just for the community art leaders?
It's really, well, community arts leaders, Restorative Arts and Equity just finished processing closeouts for art programming for court-involved youth, which was $10,338. So that was the one thing that got added on to that particular category expense. Those have been paid. Those are still pending to be paid out, but we've already issued and set up those payments. They just haven't been processed by MPS.
So is that $21,834.60 a better number than the $42,139, or is that a different thing entirely?
It's already included. That is
Okay.
just what was left from their budget.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already been included. Yeah, I didn't know if you had any additional questions. Okay. Yeah, what's pending is the last couple payments for City Heart, which is Goodson, also known as, or formerly known as Taylor Business. Yeah.
Just what's host and hostess?
Catering.
Okay.
A quick, Chris is exactly right. I just wanted to update the whole group. Fiscal year 24 will not be closed through nearly October. While most of these are those things that Chris just detailed are still outstanding, I don't want the group to say, oh, we knew what it looked like at this point in time. There's still central journal entries that will be made associated with accruals, as well as other year-end activities that will start happening after everything closes at the end of this week. And so that's something that Central Finance and Accounting does on as a matter of normal business. So while these invoices are outstanding, and even so, because they were at the point in the fiscal year, it is still up to finance to make the determination of whether they're fiscal year 24 or 25 expenses. So not in agreement, but just in addition to.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I've seen budgets roll through July of the next year
Yeah.
in terms of reports. So I understand.
Sometimes you're real close, and then until you aren't.
Exactly, exactly. And reporting is interesting. It continues on. So thank you. Thanks, Chris. Any questions on fiscal year 25 or any issues there? Because it's new.
Yeah, great question. So I'm currently in the true-up expenses process. I'm in the completion phase of that, where I am reallocating funds from temporary services, management consulting services to be utilized for other programming. Dr. Coleman mentioned previously maybe doing some type of professional development or things of that nature that we could use for the improvement of staff skills or trainings, things of that nature. So just wanted to get an update on that as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, and since we're only 30 days in and we're only 8 days into August, I wasn't looking for a whole lot of detail for this date anyway. Thank you so much. Okay. Any questions from either of the other commissioners? Okay. Let me ask a question though, because before we move to the other, I've got a question here about kind kind of process that's in place, and I know you and I had talked about that. But as we look at public art, there's no dollars on either year. Is that because there is no dollars or because dollars are allocated in a different way?
So dollars for public art, I actually did not include that on here. The last time I checked, there was still an update that needed to be made for FY25. I'm not sure if it's ready to be pulled, but I can pull those numbers and have them for the next meeting or prior to the next meeting.
And I guess my other question is, was there any FY24 spending at all?
For public art? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they have, yeah.
At some point, I'm just looking for the numbers of all of arts funding so that we have a view of it.
Sure.
Not to do anything other than understand the landscape.
I just wanted to add that our allocation from Metro government does not include public art.
That's why I was asking
Okay,
the question.
and that the last unofficial, I guess, answer to my question about how much is there, because I've only thought it was about $3 or $4 million, but it's really more than that, and I don't know what that amount is. I think they said 7 or 8, but I'm not 100% certain.
Is this codified in code in terms of dollars and cents, and then is it then?
It's codified in terms of the percent for public art ordinance.
Got it.
That was passed in 2000, was it? Yeah, 2000, yeah. And when Bill Purcell was mayor, and I was chair of the Arts Commission at that time.
Okay. All right. But Arts Committee is responsible for administering that program, right?
Well, yes, look, yeah, for running that program, administering, yeah, right.
Okay.
If you'd like, I can give you a little color on that. So every time, as a part of code, as you detail, when the council does a capital spending plan, those items that are related to buildings and infrastructure, and you'll have to look at the code exactly, a percentage is made for arts, and it goes into the capital spending plan, and that is detailed. It's actually very separate from the operating budget, which is what you have before you here, and it would be a capital budget. Arts has colloquialized that as percent money, but the government calls that the capital spending, and so we can align it that way, and so that's a report that can be run, and it can be detailed absolutely what was spent last year and what can be spent this year, and it can be gotten pretty quickly for you.
Okay. I just think we just need to know what it is, what we're dealing with. However it's allocated, however it's told we need to do it. There's always a Bible for every dollar you got.
That's right. And that money in particular, because of how it works, most of that goes through a call to artists, as you all know from your public arts committee work, and it's treated differently from how your operating is done, and because most of that stuff costs greater than $25,000, as you well know, and some of it, and it comes as a package for a lot of really good work in the community. So that is how that works. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Good deal. Any more questions? Any more comments? Okay. Well, let's sort of move on, and I guess the other piece talks a little bit about the process and procedures that we had talked about with respect to HR and administrative process, and that, I guess, again, falls to you, Chris, or to you, Dr. Coleman, or are you all doing this as a do-all?
Well, I was just going to say that in my looking in SharePoint, I didn't find any HR policies per se. I didn't look anywhere else because I didn't know where else to look. And Chris and Skylar handle our HR and time cards and things of that nature and bringing people on. So she might want to say something.
We do have a Metro Arts HR policies procedure. I guess you can say handbook, but it is outdated. Last time it was updated was 2020. So we have some type of foundation to run off of and make edits. I can also share that with you too.
That'll be fine, because what we're looking for is just what do we have, whether or not it's good to go, or whether or not it needs some work. So that's good to know in terms of, so if you can share that, we can just sort of look at it and see if there's any questions that we may have that pop up as it relates to the handbook itself. So, okay, thanks. Administrative, if I have a voucher, how do I get it paid? That's always the question people want to know when they work at places. So is there something that tells people how to do that? Because generally, if I'm out and I'm doing work and I'm expending funds of my own, how do I get them back? Is there something outlined in that process there? I think we.
There is in the documentation that I sent to you yesterday.
Okay.
And then also it's a separate process. I didn't know if you were asking for you as an employee being a vendor or as an outside person being a vendor, but there's processes for both. Yeah.
SOPs might tend to do both, So at some point, I guess we're asking for both at some point, because if you're an outside vendor, that's a different process under Metro procurement, is it not?
For sure.
Okay. But the question is there an outline within Metro Arts that defines what happens? Do they need to see you by a certain point in time, or someone else? And how many steps do you have? And is there a process for review? And actually, what I call a mini review to correct any problems before they get over to finance, where they will identify them.
So there is a process for implementing, I guess, invoices to be paid. Is that what you're asking, Commissioner Watts?
Vouchers, invoices, whatever you call them, because vouchers sometimes may not be called an invoice. I don't know what you all call them.
Sure.
Okay.
So that process is also the procedure for that is with Metro Arts as well.
Okay.
And I noticed that it is outdated too.
Okay.
And there have been several other changes that have come that have been relayed to us that have since then changed. So we have started to implement some of those changes so that we can reduce the amount of challenges, roadblocks, and obstacles in getting payments out to vendors on time.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Okay.
I actually have a question. So thinking about this committee, Commissioner Watts, thinking about the SOPs and the kind of review, is the idea that there is going to be alignment between these SOPs and then kind of the findings in the audit? So like looking where the holes are or the suggestions, and then is it this committee's role to develop those or encourage those or bring them to, what's the process for that?
I think our role is really to sort of figure out what's here, what needs to be worked on, and then make a recommendation to the full board for approval. That's what happens with most SOPs as I have encountered them in my role at boards and commissions throughout my career. It is a staff function. It is not a commission function per se. Commissioners will have input and review and then make the approvals, but it is a staff function because we don't function as staff or run those things. So that's it. There is this notion of what is our role. Our role is a temporary role, and that's why I said at some point I'm looking for us probably to work no more than the end of this fiscal year, and I want to dovetail the date they have for trying to get things in place for Thrive, unless the full body of the commission decides otherwise to do that. SOPs are critical to most audits wherever they are. I don't care whether the money is direct or indirect monies, but you got to have SOPs as to how you function and operate, and that is really what tells auditors whether or not you're doing what you say you're going to do. When I used to do A102 stuff, which is a real nother process, that's the federal audit, it was really more detailed and those kind of things. But whether it's audits at the federal level, the state level, the local level, it is really what's your mission, what's your goals, and how are you going to implement and execute those, and do you have any problems in doing those? Over the last year, we've heard a lot of issues about payments, about other things going on, and so our function is really to sort of put together SOPs for Arts Commission, It may not say it in what we got in February, but it does talk about things, but not specifically every unit. The only thing talked about was Thrive, but the questions in the other areas do implicate actually functioning administrative issues for the entire commission, because you can't have one and not the other. So, I hope, okay, fine. Any comments about that or suggestions? Okay, fine. And then at some point, all of this will go to the full body of the commission. We have other committees that are functioning that will be making reports in about what they do, developing theirs. Some things are around, and that's why I ask about code for Metro, for public arts. Some of that is defined there, and that's fine. But if the administration is with the Arts Commission, we need to know what that role is and what that looks like. And that really is what we're trying to do, is make sure that whatever it is we live by is in a place and outlines our functions, whether it is payroll or whether it is expending dollars for public art based on code. And I mean, and those are the things. And then there's other things about defining Thrive, what it looks like, where it'll be, how it'll be implemented. All of those kind of things are really what happens. But it's really the day-to-day functioning is what SOPs deal with. And it's myopically focused on what we do here, not necessarily what finance or procurement or HR will do for Metro-wide, but what we do here in this organization as it moves forward and how we report to those other organizations or collaborate or whatever. That really is what we're talking about when we talk about the SOP structure. And I've been talking with Dr. Coleman briefly, and one of the things that I want to do over the next week or so is to look at what kind of pieces we can find that are models that can be used to pull these together. It's not going to be the same language, just models, so that we're not all trying to figure out where we're going. Some of it can be a chart. I don't really care. That really outlines what that area does. Creativity is open, but we just need to have it. Even if you have a whole document behind it that might be large with a lot of words, what does the process look like? And some of that can be looked at as well. And as development goes forward, I think that's really what we want to do, is to make this usable. Don't put it on a shelf and lose it. And something that has life. That means that we feed it when it needs to be fed. We review it. We do whatever. It's like a child. When they start walking, we give them better shoes and leave them alone and let them run and play. But as a younger person, we're with them a little bit more. So some of this, and we hear that there's some things that are being updated. So that's really what we're talking about here. Okay. If you all have any suggestions, fine. Then there's the notion of bylaws, which is a separate document, but something that impacts what happens. Okay. So all of those factors will be looked at to make sure that they are interchangeable and it makes sense with whatever unit. I think each of our committees from the commission was asked to identify who we are, what our charge is, and what our challenge is. And that's something that we have to do as well, because we would then be involved in that process from that perspective in terms of that, and sort of look at how that works and how we feed into the commission so that we can do work in committees like this and then make recommendations to the full body for approval. And as they say, get out of the way and let the ball game begin. Does that make sense, or are there some others? Okay. All right, great. All right. And so the final issue, and I ask for this because what I realize as a member of the Public Arts Committee is that they have a lot of documents and a lot of detail around what they do. And they have been doing that for a while. And as a model, I think it's good to see what it is that we're doing that is that developed, that is actually moving forward. And then there's also, as they say, monuments in the community to the work. And it can be seen and viewed by citizens, which is also the other part of that. So we're not always just talking about a document that says you do X and Y, but we're actually producing art out in the community as a direct result of that. So, so Jessica is not here. Okay. Do you want to just talk briefly about that, or you want to save that for another day? It's up to you, Dr. Coleman.
Well, there is a very well-defined process that public art uses from call to artist. and various types of design requirements, reviews. I don't want to I'm obviously not as articulate about the process, but it is with lots of checks and balances. And even when the product is finished, there's still some sign-offs that has to happen. So hopefully we can have a presentation of that in the near future.
Okay.
There was some question about whether or not public art was in the purview of budget and oversight, but every committee, every unit is within the purview of budget and oversight. And as far back as May, in our minutes, we were talking about that, and again, the same point you were making about public art. So,
Okay. Thank you. All right, so we will hold that and look at that probably sometime in the future. I know there's a Public Arts Committee meeting later this week,
the 8th.
the 8th, and some other things, but we can probably look at that and talk about that as we move forward, and dates for looking at that. So,
And I wanted to say the point that you had mentioned to me, and I think it's very valid. You wanted to hear from staff because they have hands-on day-to-day responsibilities, which is very different from a volunteer commissioner who has intermittent contact with that particular subject area.
yeah, because I think that if we're expending Metro resources through staff, and staff are leading the programs, then they should tell us what's going on and help and assist the director in moving the Metro Arts Commission forward. So that's why I was asking for staff input
Thank you.
as well as director input. The other piece is I think that as we look at SOPs, they never stand alone. Somebody's got to champion them. So I always look at staff as being the champions because they're executing the plans of the commission at the base level and moving it out into the community. So, questions, comments?
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
I do have a question. I was, upon calling you over the last few months, just trying to figure out if there is a benchmarks, guidelines, what exactly is the purpose of this committee? I would love to know that. I know Director Dietz has given instructions on exactly what the formation of this is, but I just want to know, are we still on task with that? Just so that we're being respectful of time, energy, resources, but also to make sure I'm giving you guys what you need to do your work. So I just want to be included in on that, if that is something I can be in the known with. Thank you.
Did you get the February 25 piece that had a number of different questions on it? Have you seen that? It was outlined was it February 25 meeting? That was our initial meeting in February.
From Director Crumbo? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, at this point, I don't know what we're working on next week. So I'm just asking for maybe a guidelines or benchmarks that we're trying to achieve during this time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And if I can know it ahead of time so I can start working on that as we go.
Some of that was my response to Commissioner Lefowitz, but basically we're looking for standard operating procedures to be in place for all the units. This is what I heard. Let me talk about what I heard over the last several months. We were having problems paying vendors. People didn't know what to do to get them paid. Now I've heard that. Whether that's right, wrong, untrue, part true, doesn't matter, but that's what I heard. So the question started to come out was, well, what do we have in place to make sure that is done? Some of that has to do with staff training, initially and onboarding. Some of that has to do with commissioner onboarding. Those are two bigger things which we have not really talked about, but one of the things that SOPs do is they set the foundational work for onboarding of everything, because people can come and tell what's going on, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then it is really pretty simple. So what are we doing? We're looking for the foundation for operations for this organization to move forward, whatever that is. If it currently exists, we just need to know what it is. We're not asking you to reinvent a wheel. I'm looking for wheels that run on whatever we're running. And maybe we haven't defined what we're running, but we're just looking for wheels. Sometimes the wheel is a train wheel because it's moving faster than others. Sometimes it's an automobile wheel. But this is about day-to-day operations. It goes back to something that I've probably done most of my career. That's understanding the mission, the goals, and the objectives of the organization, and then putting together the framework for day-to-day operations, whatever that may be. And that's been defined by the managers of those divisions where I've worked. I may have some ideas, but half time I was out in left field, and most of the time it comes from those who really do the day-to-day functions. A lot of automation takes place these days, so it's pretty simple. But there's still the notion of, if I come through that door and my job is X, Y, Z, whatever, what do I do? And how does that fit into the bigger picture? Does that give you some clarity?
Absolutely. I'm just like we have an agenda here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Dr. Paulette's talking about FY24. I just need to know, hey, students, next week, your multiplication is due. That's all I'm asking for. I know the purpose. I'm just trying to stick with the plan. That's all.
Okay. And I think the other thing is I'm going to meet with Dr. Coleman about some prototypes for SOPs so that when they're done, they don't stand alone. It's SOPs that then get put into something online that says, if you're looking for this, this is what it says. If you're looking for that, it really is just a guide. That's all it's ever been. However, auditors look for them, and when you don't follow them, that's when you get audit findings.
Yeah.
I know that personally.
That's actually what I wanted to, I think that was what I was getting at in that previous question.
Okay.
Is thinking about, like, to Chris's point, I know, like, we have the audit with the kind of things at the end that Dr. Coleman's working on the responses for. There will be deadlines associated with those, right? Could we, I'm thinking that, I mean, the outline, especially the things that were read, right, are like in need of attention. And many of those, I bet, might deal with, like, could benefit from some SOPs or from some policies. So I guess to that point, like, my question before was, could the audit findings function as a framework of how we could support Dr. Coleman and support this as a committee to develop the things that we need and make a timeline? Because those are the problems, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, those are the problems, but I think as we do the problems, we also need to confirm that there's some good stuff.
Oh, sure.
So I think probably big picture, no, not just problems, because what happens if you go only to problems, you overlook the good work and the good process, and you forget to fold them in, and then they might become problems later. So I'm looking at what else does. And at the last meeting, I said our Bible was in fact the audit itself for going through that. And I sort of made that comment. So I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Yeah. But no, we're following the audit, but we're also following a little bit broader. Where are we doing things right? And then fold those in, because if they're done, so if the handbook is out there and all it needs is a few tweaks, then do the few tweaks and give it back to us, Chris. That's what I'm saying. Sure. So that's what we're looking for. So if we have process and procedures or SOPs in place for something else that for whatever it fits, then do those, tweak those, and give it back to us. As we do commission committee functions of who we are and what we will do, if those are done, then fold those in, because all of these then become operating procedures up and down, and they should not stand alone. It should be the landscape of Metro Arts. Mm-hmm. So rather than just, oh, these are our problems, we're going to fix these. Yes, we are. But these are the things that we do well, that we want to have the public understand how we do them, and then we want to showcase how we do them well. And that really is about all of this, because if all we function, we will never have a team that thinks they're doing great stuff, and I have a feeling they're doing great stuff. We just don't know enough about it. Mm-hmm. So that really is part of that, looking at it. So yes, we are going to focus in on that, but that's not the only thing. So I'm looking for us to also say, and by the way, we've done this, this, and this, and we've developed this program, and we've done this, and we'll go, wow. I want the wow moments, because I think that it really is incumbent upon us to get those and to explain those to each other and to the public. We've had a year where we've not had a lot of wow moments, so let's do wow.
I think the Lending Library is a wow moment.
I really do. Oh, absolutely. And you're right. That is a wow moment. And the exhibit was great. And there's a process for that. How do you get it? All of that. We just want that so that we understand. It can be a 2-pager in the SOP with a whole lot of stuff behind it. But that tells us what we're doing. We're able to tell the story of the Metro Arts Commission in a variety of different ways. Does that make sense? Okay. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I know you're the numbers. You're the numbers guru. So we want you to tell us the story behind the numbers. Okay? So in addition to the numbers, because that really is how we start to let the public know what we're doing and how we're spending those dollars and cents. Okay? Great. Does that make more sense to you? Okay, great. Good deal. So, let's see. It says our next meeting is not until. Are there any other issues that we need to deal with? Any old business?
I have a few. I had one thing related to. I didn't remember. We had asked. I'm sorry. I have had COVID in my brain. I cannot put words together. Do you know what I'm saying? We had asked commissioners to send Tessa notes about the bylaws. And so I just wanted to remind people of that. If you haven't done that, we asked for it to go to her by Friday. And so if you haven't done that, if you could please do that, because the executive committee is going to be, that's what we're going to do the next time is look at that. And Tessa's going to compile all of that for us.
When is the executive committee meeting? Monday?
No.
We don't have.
We
We
don't
currently
have it
don't have a
set.
date.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. Okay, I know you met before the good deal. All right. And you need it from us like yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And then I did have one question. I'm sorry, this is going back to the MHRC, the conciliation. This just occurred to me in terms of the dates that you said. If things are sorted out before that date by the working group, does that mean that the funds could be awarded sooner?
I don't know. Tessa, do you know the answer to that?
The working group that's working on the conciliation and the kind of new Thrive things, she laid out a timeline which went through like September 25. But let's say they really hit it and have some super ideas and things go really well. Is that a buy date, or is it like, could it happen sooner?
I would say it can happen sooner, that these dates are what are aspirational per the agreement. Yeah, obviously if it works faster, it works faster.
Okay.
Oh, add one more thing. This is kind of a research thing related to kind of what some of our conversations last time. I wrote this down. Remember, Sydney, we were talking about like other cities and different things. And as part of that, I was thinking, and I don't know, Dr. Coleman, if you remember this, like with your history of Metro Arts, but has Metro Arts ever had like a policy person or like an employee, or has that ever been like a position? Like, I guess I was thinking about like what Ashley does in terms of researching policy. I was like, has that ever been a thing or a role that someone has had to do kind of policy research that could?
No. And when we used to do something called the impact of the arts, the economic impact of the arts on Nashville, and that was with a consultant. And sometimes it was in collaboration with, we have done some things in collaboration with the chamber because they had research, and then we had done some things in collaboration with Middle Tennessee State. From the time I was not on the commission till now, I don't know, but that is one of the things that I think would be very important a policy analyst or somebody who can look at not only impact, but, well, just lots of things with related to art, how it's correlated with health or housing or justice. These are just off the top of my head. So the answer is no, at least not while I served on it, nor prior. I don't think so between now and then. Because there were the economic impact, and there were several studies like that were done, but the staff didn't do them. It was usually in collaboration with an organization or an entity, university, chamber, etc. Yeah. Somebody that had a research capability.
Right. Thank you.
And I can't remember whether we were doing anything about the other cities or whether or not can't remember whether or not in my brain I thought I told Commissioner Jester and Sydney to come back to us if they had details that would be beneficial for us. I think
We had talked about contacting other cities in regards to the disparity study, and that still needs to be done. There's just so many moving pieces right now, especially as it pertains to conciliation, that I'm not sure that information would be helpful at this point. We need to have our own ground a little more solid before we can make a comparison.
Well, I think sometimes it's rather than making a comparison, just what's out there. It's sort of like what can we see? Is it anything that we think we can see for Nashville? If not, dismiss it. If it is there, so there's value added even if you're never going to do it. Because if there's some place that you think is doing things great, where is that place? Because I think San Diego had something.
It's Austin that's had two of them recently,
Yeah.
in the recent past.
And San Diego has a big arts program because I saw something on it. So, but some of this is just that. So, but I think I was waiting for you all to do that as opposed to this committee taking that function on. I didn't see us doing that per se, unless you think that's something we need to do.
No, that's really, it's on Sydney's / my to-do list.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, somehow either I said do it or I thought that's where it just needed to be.
Well, and that's what I think made me think about the policy person, like all kinds of things like that would be so helpful to research that, sometimes staff, they don't have, it may not, the time, those kinds of things may, in terms of time, they may not have it. And so I just think it'd be fun to have somebody who we could say, could you go look this up?
I think there's always the aspirational issues to look at in terms of organizational structure, research. What should we look like as an organization? Do we need a permanent house? And that's something I've been thinking about. And I think I mentioned it to Dr. Coleman. And what should that look like? If we're the Arts Commission, what do we show the public? Where can they find us? What do we do? I mean, and I started thinking about it after I left the art at the library. The library building itself is an interesting building, and it's turned into a fabulous monument to libraries around this country in terms of what it looks like, the value it adds, and everything else. And I go into the library sometimes and just get lost. I do 2 or 3 rooms at a time. And the civil rights issue is one of the best in the country. So I end up there, and I used to do that quite a bit because my office was across the street. I just go over there and think and listen to speeches. But somewhere, who are we and what are we presenting? So that's something to think about in terms of how we look and where we are. Can people find us?
The reasoning around when I said shifting ground is that obviously we have money at this point budgeted for a disparity study. So we're going to have to do a disparity study at some point. But going out and finding that information closer to the time when we're actually going to execute a disparity study would allow us to be able to utilize the information better rather than go look it up now and then 8 months from now have to try to find the information that we looked up 8 months ago.
I think I'm looking bigger than just the disparity study. I'm looking probably at what are these Arts Commission doing? What do they look like? Did they have similar issues to us? And this is simple stuff. This has nothing to do with the disparity study. Just that kind of thing. And so if it's Austin, what have they done? And what have they transformed the city into, or what are they transforming the city into? Nashville has great public art, but I'm not sure a lot of people know about it and know where it is. And we have it in great places. Some of it's not easy to get to. That's a transportation issue, I'm sorry.
FYI, just yesterday, The Indianapolis Arts Commission is doing a benchmark study. It said it'd take about 15, 20 minutes to answer the questions, and they sent us a personal note that they would very much like for us to participate, and of course we are. But that, and if I haven't been keeping up with Americans for the Arts or South Arts, but I'm sure there are other cities that are doing things of that nature, and I can take a look into it and report back to you.
And that would be somebody that could do that. If we had extra people could do that, that would be, I think, what Commissioner Lefowitz was talking about. That would be absolutely wonderful to make sure, because we do need to benchmark ourselves against others. By the way, I'm assuming Indiana will share the report once they do it.
We'll find out, I'm sure, yeah.
I've worked in state government, so generally I was able to get things from my colleagues that wasn't public knowledge, but you could always call, and they were willing to share and develop the community, if you will. So, okay. Well, that was a great conversation around aspirational kind of issues. I like that. I think at some point, as we go out of it, as we move forward and get to our conclusion, we do need to leave something from an aspirational perspective as to where the commission needs to be over time, whatever that looks like. That's a full strategic planning initiative, which takes into account SOPs. Okay. Organizational development is the key to organizations and where they go and what they do. So a lot of this is things that I think we just need to undergird, re-announce, reinvigorate, and put into a package for directors and staff to function by, whatever that is. And some of them will require studies and some won't. All right. Any other new business, old business?
This is just an aside. One of the things that, when you were talking about the importance of your physical environment and space, these are horrible offices, and they don't relate to art at all. As a matter of fact, it's really incongruent that something artistic should be here. And we do have people who are exploring. We were initially told that we had to be out of here by December. That is not true. I spoke with the new head of GSA, and he says and one of his people that we have, at least we have a 2-year lease, the metro facilities that are here. But Chuck Beard on our staff is looking at and talking with people in GSA about possibly other options.
All right. I passed by an empty building on Lebanon Road. You all need to look at. It's the old Donaldson Library.
Oh, you mentioned that before, I believe.
It's an interesting building. It's empty. I don't know if it's available, but it would be wonderful. After I left that gallery showing, this was what I envisioned, was that at some point we had a space where we could do our own gallery openings and those kind of things and showcase artists, whoever they may be, on an ongoing basis. And I just said, oh, this is wonderful. That's the library space, and they are going to lend the article, but it's Arts Commission that was responsible for making it happen. So how do you do that? I said, that's a cute,
FYI,
cute little building.
When the Arts Commission was in the Howard complex, in that brick building up on the 4th floor where elections used to be, it was a really lovely space with a brick wall and really interesting architectural configuration, and there was a gallery there.
Okay.
And they did have openings, and they weren't typically in the evening. They were, after work or that kind of thing. So that is something that the Arts Commission has done in the past.
Yeah. Okay. And I think I started looking at that building, by the way, for somebody mentioned as a commercial spot, and then I thought, no. So, and Donaldson's growing, by the way, so that's the other reason. So, as we look at our next meeting date, October 1 is 60 days away, and we're going to put ourselves out of business as quickly as possible. I think we need to probably do work between now and the 1st of October, not wait 60 days. Come back with some possible options for the standard operating procedures, which we can develop in like 30 to 45 days, maybe 30 days. And to also look at the things that we have that can be tweaked and presented so we can see those and to sort of give a blessing and take it back up so that we're building whatever it is we're building, recognizing that some stuff will go further out, and we can start doing meetings, because if the conciliation is moving, some of the things out of the conciliation will impact the SOPs, and we need to follow that schedule. So that's when we can get on the 60-day schedule, because we need to just figure out what that committee is doing and get updates on those on a periodic basis. But in the interim, there's other things. And then we can look really at what's going on with public arts. And I'll look at the materials, because I have quite a few public arts materials, and I was quite impressed by everything that's in place there. I'm going to just let you know. So I'm looking at it as a really a foundational piece. Again, a showcase piece and things of that nature, along with the other things that we need to do. So is there...
Can I ask one question? Mm-hmm. Dr. Coleman, when you said you were doing the audit plan and the dates for that, that's something you'll give us like at the commission meeting or something?
Hopefully before, so you can have an opportunity to look at it and study. Because I've done the times for the MHRC, and I've got to plug those in together so we can get a holistic picture. But the recommendations from the audit, I have not finished.
Yeah.
Particularly the corrective action part.
Yeah. And but part of that too is there'll be deadlines for those that we can help support in terms of getting things together and however we can support that.
And independent of those, the Tennessee Arts Commission on October 1st wants a report from us on where we are and what we've done vis-a-vis responding to the internal audit.
So, and that's an October 1st date. Mm-hmm. Okay. As it relates to our meeting being October 1st, can we meet 30 days from now and give you and Arts Commission staff time to put together presentations for us at the next meeting on while you will have presented it to the commission at the commission meeting, we can go over it and deal with details about what that looks like and any assignments that you have for staff for doing certain things that may roll out of that. Just let us know what that looks like and how it fits the SOP budget and oversight process. All right.
I have the dates of September 3rd, September 10th, and September 17th. Those are all on Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. We'll come back into the office on September 3rd, but I mean, that's
today
fine.
is the 8th of August.
Today's the 6th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the 8th.
Okay.
I'm on the 8th already because I'm due somewhere on the 8th.
Are we giving feedback about dates now, or you get some kind of doodle?
I think we just, if we can just sort of pinpoint and then come back with a doodle.
The 10th is out for me entirely, but the 3rd and the 17th are fine.
Because I would like to go out probably to the 17th at the earliest. That gives time for staff and Dr. Coleman and staff to work on issues and those kind of things so that we can get it in advance and make it a working meeting and just come back with ideas, suggestions, and if things look well, make some, yes, this looks good. Run it up the flagpole.
17th is great.
I can do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right, so we will do that, and then we will probably then get on another schedule that will probably dovetail with the MHRC kind of pieces and sort of figure out where we go.
And just really quick, that date, I'm going to make it the date because you're the majority. So
Thank you.
That works.
So that's for Tuesdays.
Yes.
I do start teaching again, just FYI. That's my job. And I have class that ends around 12:15. So
You want to move it to 12:30 or 1?
yeah, if that could happen, it would be great.
That's fine,
because
I'll be coming out of a meeting downtown about noon. I could get here at 11:30,
Yeah.
but that makes it even better. Why don't we do 1 to 3?
1 to 3. Okay.
Yes.
thank you.
Are we going to change the meeting times to 1 to 3 or just this particular meeting?
Why don't we do this one and we can probably talk about meeting times at a later date. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I just wanted to note, commissioners, I've sent you the budget for FY24 and FY25 for public art, in addition to the Metro Arts policies.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, got good reading to do. If I wasn't driving, I could read them. But I'm traveling on a plane between now and then at least once. I like that plane reading. All right. So the 17th at 1 to 3. That works out fine. And are there any other concerns that we need to deal with today? All right. If not, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All who object. Thanks, everyone. We'll give you back a few minutes of your day.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.